Hey y'all, hey, welcome back to Truth, Trust, and Trajectory with your girl Shakim B. Today I'm going to be talking about healing and finding your voice after getting out of a toxic or narcissistic relationship. So let me ask you guys at home, have you ever felt like your voice was stolen? Like no matter how loud you screamed, no one could hear you? That's exactly how I felt after getting out of a narcissistic and toxic relationship. For years, my voice was silenced through bullying, manipulation, and even gang stalking. But today, I'm here to tell you that it is possible to find your voice again, to heal, and to reclaim your power. If you've ever felt voiceless, broken, or trapped in a cycle of anger, mistrust, and frustration, this video is for you. And make sure you guys stick around to the end because I have a special gift for you. And if you're ready to take the next step, don't forget to subscribe for more tools, tips, and inspiration to help you thrive after trauma. Let's go ahead and dive in and find your voice together. All right, so y'all already know we're going to cleanse your energy. Come on over here. We're going to clear it out with some Palo Santo. And I'm going to do me too because my throat chakra be closed. And sometimes when I'm trying to talk, I'm like, come on now, spirit. All right. And you guys are going to hear three loud sounds. This is just me clearing out the energy. Now let's begin. All right. So, if you've ever been in a toxic dynamic or a narcissistic relationship, I think that you know better than anybody else the level of confusion it leaves you feeling as if you've lost your mind. So, with narcissistic abuse, it often involves tactics like gaslighting, manipulation, and bullying to silence you. Just sharing a bit of my story, the most memorable, impactful narcissistic relationship that I was in involved my ex husband, um, who we've been separated for about 4 years or so now. But I just remember feeling so confused and lost and kind of like halfway crazy during and especially after that relationship. And I couldn't really put my finger on it. And I was actually speaking to a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about these narcissistic, very toxic dynamics, and how a lot of times when you're in these relationships, it is so hard to pinpoint the abuse that's happening. So when you try to explain it to other people, you end up sounding batshit crazy. So for me, I actually met him when I was 17, going on 18, and he was 24, getting ready to be 25. We each had one child apiece. And I noticed very early on that there was something not right. But at that particular time, because I was so young and I didn't have anybody to teach me or show me exactly how a man is supposed to treat a woman. So the things that I had witnessed in my upbringing were kind of very, it was normal. This relationship was normal until, obviously later on in life, I grew to learn that there was, in fact, nothing normal about this. It was actually a very toxic dynamic. So when I first met him, I remember, he would do things like, like, he would do things like tell me he was going to call me at a certain time or call me right back and then not do it, which at that time I had a very anxious attachment style that I wasn't aware that's what that was. So I would, try to call him back and he would just ignore me. And this was like a cycle um for like most of our relationship, if not all of it. And I later grew to find out that the reason why he would not pick up his phone is because he was doing things that were definitely a violation of the relationship at the time. So, when I would bring these issues up and ask him, his favorite thing to say to me would be, "Oh, well, you don't have proof," right? I remember there was one night. This is when I had moved in with him because we everything happened really fast. Let me go back a little bit. So with us, everything happened pretty fast. I went from foster care to living with him just about full time. And then we had like a little, it wasn't even a break in between, but we had a lot of domestic issues in the beginning. Um, a lot of them to where, he was spitting on me, choking me, hitting me, things that he should not have been doing, he was doing. And so I ended up going to a shelter, a DV shelter with my oldest son, and I was then pregnant with his first child, or his second child, so his first son, at that time. And that's when I would try to reach out to him, and he would not pick up the phone, and that kind of caused a lot of mental chaos and melee. So there was actually a time I came back. I had moved back with him from the shelter after we had went through an extensive amount of things, and I was asleep one night, and he used to work. He used to deliver pizza, so for this restaurant. So I had went to sleep, and he was supposed to be off at a specific time. So I went to sleep, and I had a dream that he had pulled up in his car, and at the time he drove a black uh, Audi. So, and the dream felt so real, it was ridiculous, right? So I'm sleeping in the dream. He pulls up outside, and he's got a girl in the front seat with him. And I'm like, "Are you fucking serious?" So I ended up waking up from this dream because it was so real, and I didn't realize at that time that what I was doing was astral projecting, and I'll get to that later on in the story. But I remember getting up and looking out the window, and I didn't see his car. Now fast forward, because I had asked him about it. I told him about my dream, and he looked at me like, "Okay," and which is crazy, right? Because I feel like when you have spiritual or intuitive gifts, um, when you tell people this, they will intentionally try to gaslight you and make it seem like there's something wrong with you. And like I said before, his favorite thing would to say would be, "Oh, well, you don't have any proof, so you shouldn't even be bringing this up to me," right? So fast forward, probably like maybe 10 years later, excuse me, we were talking. We were sitting down talking because we used to talk about everything, right? And I remember he was telling me that that night he actually was outside. He had pulled up, but he had pulled up to the neighbor's house that was across the street, and he parked his car in the back of the driveway, so looking outside you wouldn't be able to see his car. And he took the girl that he had brought home from work into the neighbor's house, to pretty much engage with her. And when he told me that, I was just very astounded because I was thinking like, wow, the fact that you really, and I wasn't able to put a word to what he was doing at the time. So I didn't know that that was gaslighting. I didn't know that was like an extensive form of manipulation, right? I didn't know that he was actively mentally abusing me at the time, because that's abuse. That is a mental abuse, right? And tricking somebody into believing that what they're seeing and the things that they know um, are not in fact true, which they were true because he admitted to it 10 years later. So with that being said, I was just like, wow, like you're very sinister. So he taught me very early on to make sure that I had tangible and physical proof if I was going to catch him, because he thought that he was so slick and smart that, my intuitive powers wasn't they're not enough to basically get him to be integral and tell the truth and say, "You know what? I was doing that." So that is just one example or one of the stories of how narcissistic abuse involves like an array of different tactics, and how relentless and tyrannical they can be, and convincing you that you don't know what you're talking about. So, to my viewers at home, have you ever felt like your thoughts and your feelings didn't matter? Because I know that during this relationship, there had been so many times where I've, expressed that I can actually see what he's doing, and, the sneaky tendencies and behaviors, and they were basically just dismissed. And even talking to his mother about these things, because at the time we lived upstairs from her, she would also gaslight me into um believing that I didn't know what I was talking about. And there was actually one time, very close, like, now for anybody, I just want to give a disclosure here for anybody that's sitting at home listening to this and thinking, "Oh, well, you stayed for all of those years and he was doing this." Yes, I did. I did because I was supposed to. I wouldn't be able to share this information with you guys now had I not gone through that, for one. And for two, at the time, like I said, I didn't have anyone that was teaching me that what this man was doing was narcissistic abuse. I did not know how to defend myself against this. I thought that I had to stay because, we have 6 children together, and, I would get comments from my mother and other his mother and people that, just have a old-timey way of thinking of things, that, "Oh, nobody's gonna want you with 7 kids." And, "Well, where are you gonna go? What are you gonna do? At least you have a man." This is the type of advice that I was getting. The advice wasn't coming from a healed place. It wasn't coming from um, overcoming a lot of these abusive tendencies that we tend to deal with these low vibrational creatures. Like, I didn't have that. So back to the one time I think I had went to go visit my mother, and I had came back and I was talking to his mom, and we were just talking, shooting the whatever. And I remember her telling me a time that she had came out into the hallway and she had saw, this woman coming from upstairs, because like I said, we lived upstairs from his mom. And, she was laughing about how the girl had a big butt and all this, that, and the third. And I was just looking at her like, and so I guess she noticed the look on my face and she was like, "Oh, well, that was definitely before you." And I'm like, I don't think so. Like, you just snitched on your son. And the fact that you're now covering for him shows the level of damaged that you are as well, right? So going through these situations and, dealing with this type of manipulative behavior, and it doesn't just come from the person that you're dealing with, it can also come from their family as well. Like, the family plays a huge role in conditioning and priming you to accept behavior and treatment that you shouldn't be dealing with. And I find that a lot of the times, um, younger girls, younger women are more susceptible to this type of dynamic because it is so easy to condition a person that has already been through so much um abuse, like mental abuse, a person that has low self-esteem, and all they are looking for is to be wanted, loved, valued, and seen by their counterpart, you know. And I always say that people, they see you coming before you even see you, right? And I think one thing that is needs to be said a lot more is when it comes to these toxic dynamics, 9 times out of 10, these people seen you coming from a mile away, right? With these narcissistic individuals, they can sense insecurity, um, they can sense it. So they know what your weaknesses are. They know if you don't really think very highly of yourself, and they have tendencies to test the waters to see how much you're going to deal with, how much you'll put up with, how far they can push you before they either get bored of you or you end up just throwing in the towel and saying, "Fuck it, I am out. I am not dealing with this anymore." So the next part I want to get into is the emotional roller coaster from silence to anger. One of the things that I noticed is a shift in how I went from being able to articulate and express where and when I felt like my boundaries were being crossed, or my emotional safety was being violated, and basically, as a byproduct, being shut down and not being heard or being dismissed from both him and his mother, to reacting and responding with a level of rage and frustration. So one thing that I was not privy to, a piece of information that I was not privy to at the time, was that when you go from not being able to express yourself and feel safe enough um, to express yourself to that person, and they then in turn they dismiss what you're feeling and they invalidate your experience, um, there is an anger that happens, which is completely natural because you've been invalidated for so long, right? So I would find that instead of being able to come to him as a way of saying, "Hey, I know that you did this. Let's talk about it." Um, because at one point I was doing that, and then it was being pretty much belittled, downplayed, and dismissed, to just having a full blown just anger response. So it would look like yelling, throwing things, screaming, cussing, creating a scene. And for me, one of the things that I've noticed is that people that are well versed in narcissistic abuse, right? And when they know how to push your buttons, what they like to do is they like to push you to a point of reaction, so now you look like the unhinged one. You look like you're crazy. And it really invalidates you in a way where people from the outside looking in and they don't actually know what's going on, then they start looking at you like there is something completely and utterly wrong with you. And this was my experience for so many years. Um, I've experienced with him when we brought our house. That is when our marriage was completely obliterated. Oh my God, was completely obliterated. And I remember one night coming home, and I was looking for the key to my bedroom, which I couldn't find. Naturally, I asked him if he, took my key because it had just disappeared. Mind you, I'm calm. I am, inebriated at the time, but I was asking him in a calm, manner. And somehow that escalated into an argument, right? Which I wasn't trying to do. I literally was just trying to go home, go in my room, and go to sleep. That turned into a full-blown argument, where he tried snatching my phone, and he was trying to break my phone. Mind you, I was paying for my own phone and my bill, so I'm like, "All right, what do you think you're doing? Why do you think this is okay to touch my belongings?" So, and it happened so quickly, I, was like, "You know what? I'm gonna just call the cops," and which I've never done over, the 14 years of us being together. I've never called the police on him because it was like this unspoken street rule, you don't snitch. But I think that was the starting point to me setting boundaries with him. Like, you're done putting your hands on me. You're done trying to mistreat me and do all of these things that you've been getting away with for the last 14 years. So as I'm trying to call the police, he's trying to snatch my phone away. So we end up outside because we were downstairs next to the front door. We end up outside, and I finally get my phone from him, and he shoves me off of the porch into the bushes. And now at this point, I'm just, completely pissed because I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you just keep thinking that you can put your hands on me and do all of these things, and it's absurd. Like, it's insane, right? So I end up getting someone on the phone, and I'm, on the phone with 911 dispatch. And prior to, I had been working for an EMS company out in that town. So I'm just like, man, they were like all up in my business, but the cops end up coming there. And while they're on their way there, he is slowly like pushing, trying to really push me over the edge. And I have, the dispatch on the phone the whole time. So by the time the police come, he's calm and I am irate because, he's just tried to push me over the edge and instigating me to the point of reaction. So now when the police come, I look like I'm the crazy one, you know? And they do this very strategically. A lot of the times, these people, these toxic, manipulative men, women, they're very well versed at containing their composure. So they get to save space, and make it look like they're well put together, and the other person, there's something wrong with them, right? So when the cops come, they end up asking him if he wants to put a restraining order on me, and I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this man just assaulted me. And I'm telling you that he's assaulted me, and you guys are taking his side. So at that moment, that is when I realized that that was not a safe space. He was not a safe choice, moving forward, and just trying to at least align myself and get it together. So let me ask you guys at home, do you find yourself reacting more intensely to situations now, even small ones? Now, I already covered the gang stalking tactics and psychological warfare as it pertains to, a lot of the times in these dynamics, what will happen is all of the people that are attached to this person, naturally, they're going to be more supportive, right? Because they see this person in the best possible light, even if they don't have an insight as to how they're treating another person or what your experience has been with them, right? So, for anyone that doesn't know what gang stalking is, it's basically a tactic used to isolate and control by a group of people. So, the example that I gave you guys earlier about his mother telling on him and then turning around and covering for him, and even to speak towards um, the rest of his family, and them also using these tactics. And this is not to speak negatively on anybody, because I think a lot of times people subconsciously, do these things and they don't know what they're doing and they don't know the repercussions of the damage that it's causing, right? But the gang stalking could be something as simple as, this person will go back and plant a seed in their family's head to make them think that you're in the wrong. And so I'll give you guys a more in-depth example with our children. When we got separated, I did not want to uproot my children from their stability. They had already been established in a school. They had their set of friends. They have a home. Like, we initially got the house for our children to be raised in a house. So that was really important to me. Upon separating, he was not willing to allow me to have the house. That was something that he just would not do. And so as a result, because I knew that it was unhealthy for us to reside in the same house, and I really didn't have any fight in me to be like, okay, I'm going to take you to court and I didn't want to do that, right? It causes more damage than it does good, right? Thinking back, part of me wishes that I would have actually just stayed to fight that fight. But then the other part of me is wondering, would I be, doing this podcast now? Would I have started my self healing journey had I not made the decisions and choices that I made to heal myself, right? But back to with the children, I live exactly one town over, which is approximately between 15 and 20 minutes of a drive. And because right now I do not have a vehicle, he's solely responsible for dropping the children off, right? And so what I'm finding is now happening is that he's becoming less and less willing to, be up to want to come back and forth between towns. So I see my children on the weekends, and there have been times where, he's made an excuse as to why he can't bring them. As a byproduct, instead of bringing my children over here, he now drops them off to his mother, who mostly has my children because he's always working. Okay. And so in my children's eyes, that is their mother. His mother is my mother. So she has managed to um, do a tactic which is called parental alienation, which is where they kind of triangulate and turn my children against me. So she's been telling people things like, oh, she's abandoned her children. She doesn't love them. She doesn't care about them. And she'll say these things in front of my children. So now, in their minds, they think that I don't love them. I don't care about them. And, they completely leave out the fact that I am at a pretty low point, which I'm not going to be at a low point for very long. But this does happen to people, right? So what I'm finding is that they're taking this opportunity to kick me while I am down, because when I had a car, when I had a consistent flow of money, I was picking up my children. I think the first summer I was here, I was picking up my children and taking them with me to Vermont. When I would have them I would fluctuate between, because we have six together, so, and one apiece. So I would fluctuate. I would have three and four for half of the week, and then the other rest of them for the other half. But these are things that conveniently get left out of the story to paint the image. And this doesn't just stop with him and his mom, it goes family wide. So now the whole entire family, who once loved me when I was being accepting of the abuse that he was putting upon me, and I was handling it like a champ, now they've managed to turn everybody against me. So now, I'm the deadbeat mom, and I'm, not available, and I'm this, that, and the third, because they are planting these ideas in everybody's head and only telling part of the story and not the whole entire story. And intuitively, I know this to be true because I've come across times where they will like follow me on social media, but then won't say anything. So it's like they're just trying to uh, get like keep tabs on what I'm doing so that way they can have something to talk about. Have you guys ever felt like you were being watched, followed, or targeted in ways that you didn't understand? That is AKA gang stalking. So now I want to talk about the turning point and deciding to heal. So the moment that I realized that I deserved better and I decided to take my power back was when I left. And I ended up getting my own apartment. And, I was holding down a job and paying my bills because he used to always say things to me like, "You're going to need me before I need you." You know, and that really just shows the power dynamic and how he felt like he was essential to my survival. And so, when I go through these low points in life, in my mind, it makes me feel like I'm a failure and I've given him exactly what he wants, which is to see me fail so that he can, go back and say, look, she can't do it. um, One of the things that I want to also get into is the importance of self-awareness and to be able to recognize the abuse for what it is. I mentioned earlier in this video that when you are in the thick of it and you are in the midst of dealing with these situations, it is so very hard to put in words what it is that you are feeling and be able to cohesively articulate to other people exactly how you feel like you are being mishandled or mismanaged by this abusive entity. So with self-awareness, it is basically looking within and noticing when certain feelings come up, whether it's violation, mistrust, anger, sadness, grief, whatever it is, these are indications that, a situation is not what you think it is, right? Because we think something based on what we can physically see, right? And our body, which keeps the score, will always tell us if something is wrong, right? And that's through energy transference. So, becoming more self-aware will enable you and give you the opportunity to be able to pinpoint if you are being mishandled or if there is some sort of narcissistic abuse going on in your dynamic. So, if you guys are not currently on your healing journey, what are you waiting for? And if you've already surpassed this, what was your turning point? At what moment did you know that you had to make a change? So, in finding your voice, I want to give you guys some practical tips to help you rebuild your confidence and speak up for yourself. I'm going to say this now because I always say this. My number one is journaling. Okay. I have kept a journal for years. I have so many. And when I journal, getting past this last relationship that I just went through, um, when I decided to actually just pull back all of my energy and stop focusing on trying to find a relationship and build the relationship with myself, I started reading a lot of the passages that I wrote while in, this previous relationship. And the thing that made me so sad is that when I went back and reflected in these journal entries, there was a common pattern that just was so gut-wrenching to me. I could not believe that I kept allowing this to happen over and over again. But also in the same token, if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to share with you guys today, right? So journaling is always going to be my first go-to and my first recommendation for finding your voice again. You have to learn how to become and feel safe speaking to yourself first, right? And sometimes I think with journaling, we because if we have gone through, so many or extensive periods of this type of mental abuse, it becomes hard to feel safe enough to start opening up to anybody, but especially in writing things down, because we don't know what's safe to say and what's not safe to say. And if you need a clarification or a sign today, please start journaling your experiences. If you're still in it, journal it. If you're out of it, still journal it. So that way it gives you a marker point as to where you were and where you never want to be again. The second tip is going to be therapy. I am a advocate for mental health. That is always going to be a thing. I feel like a lot of people that I've spoken to don't necessarily see the purpose or the point in therapy, but I'm going to tell you that a lot of us, especially in this community, we're not taught how to recognize our emotions. A lot of us cannot put a word to our emotions, right? We can't name it. And I've been there a lot of times where someone has asked me, like, hey, are you okay? And I wasn't okay, but I didn't feel safe enough to say, no, I'm not okay. Or I would say, no, I'm not okay, but I will be. Well, what's wrong? Don't want to talk about it. I don't know. You know what I mean? Because we often feel like people have a very objective way of looking at our plight. And when people look at our plight as and they dismiss it, that causes us to shut down. With therapy, it is a safe space to be able to work through what it is that you're going through. I've had a therapist who was absolutely amazing, who actually put words to stories and experiences that I've shared, and it just made so much sense. And the last tip is setting boundaries. Those are what really ultimately helped me heal, and they continue to help me heal. Setting boundaries, such as saying no, or if I have a schedule and someone is trying to impede on that schedule, no, I don't think so. Probably not today. I'll call you back later. Is there a different time we can talk? Or, if I need time to process something and I don't want to be on a reactive level, I'll say, that was a lot to take in. I just need a moment to respond. And then that's that. That is a boundary. And people will often try to make you feel bad or manipulate you into feeling like you're supposed to do it their way as opposed to protecting your own peace. Please don't let these people do that. So, what is one step you guys at home can take today to start reclaiming your voice? The last piece that I want to share with you guys is the power of community and support. It is extremely important to surround yourself with supportive and understanding people. Connecting with other people who have been through similar experiences can be extremely healing. Now, I'm going to tell you, there's a book. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. And in this book, the author talks about the importance of reconnecting with family and friends, especially after having gone through extensive traumatic experiences with a partner, right? In a toxic dynamic. The reason why it's so important is because when you're going through these things, you lose a sense of safety, you lose a sense of trust, you lose so much, right? And reconnecting with friends and family, it puts up in your mind, in your brain, a sense of community. So now you start gaining back that safety, right? And trust, even if it's just in your own community. What I found is I've started attracting more like-minded people, and especially supportive women in the current group that I'm in, that are all about spirituality and healing and all sorts of things. I've even made a really good friend who surprisingly to me, because she pointed this out, do I have lipstick on my tooth? Y'all wasn't even gonna tell me. Um, who's a therapist. And, having lost my job, I wasn't able to continue to pay for my therapy. So it just happened to be a blessing, that, the universe aligned me with a person who was able to help me through a lot of these things that still been stuck on. So this is really, really, really important. So I hope that you guys were able to take some of this information and apply it. And I want to ask you guys, who in your life makes you feel safe and heard? Do you have people in your life like that? If you don't, how can you start to align yourself with those people? So I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today and allowing me to share my journey of finding my voice after a narcissistic and toxic relationship. Remember, healing isn't about forgetting what happened, it's about reclaiming your power, your voice, and your life. If you're ready to take the next step, I've created a free 30-minute one on one coaching session crafted just for you guys to help you start your healing journey. It's my free gift to you for sticking around until the end. So make sure you guys head over to my website so that you can start your healing journey today. And if you're serious about diving deeper, I also have my coaching bundle up on my website, truthtrustandtrajectory.com, and it's on sale for February and March. This is your chance to work with me one on one to rebuild your confidence and create a life where your voice is heard and respected. Also, guys, please do not forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more tools, tips, and inspiration to help you heal and thrive. Also, make sure you guys follow me on Instagram and Facebook for daily support and updates. I'm here to cheer you guys on every step of the way. Your voice matters, your story matters, and you are worthy of love, respect, and happiness. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep shining. Okay, bye.